you. I'm Jax. Today we're going to take a look at the next question in our New Year, New Way series. Do you learn from your mistakes? Well, I thought I was always a person that learned from my mistakes, but then I thought, I wanted to get a different perspective on this question because I'm not one for the obvious, as you're finding out. So I asked my hubby, who is awesome, by the way, at challenging the way I think and having me look at things differently. First thing he asked me was, well, what do you define as a mistake? And I thought, oh, perfect! I love that. Love that. Okay, so I thought for this question, we're going to take a little bit of a different approach and look at the 4 different ways that we look at a mistake, or the word mistake, and what approach we have as a person to the bad things that happen in our life. First of all, or the first one that we look at is that we're basically programmed that way. We're flawed by design. You can travel back in all of our generations, back to the founders that created this mess, and we have been programmed to make mistakes every day. And we have been told that we're basically not accountable for our mistakes on the basis that we can't do anything about it ourselves. We're basically trapped in this existence and that we need a redeemer, so to speak, to help us break these chains of mistake making. The adage of like, the devil made me do it. There's very little accountability in our thought process and how we come to address these situations in our life. They just happen to us. The second one was that these situations in our life are all lessons. And it's basically like a child. The first one is more like a childlike thing, where everything you feel like you're doing a mistake. The second one is kind of like into adolescence, where you take those situations that you learn and you rebel against what you've been told, and you just go out there and boldly do what you're supposed to do and reap the benefits. So if bad things happen, it's because there's a lesson in there that you're supposed to learn. There's still not really a great deal of personal accountability in the lesson mindset, but if you've talked to a teenager, they don't have much accountability. It's not their fault, and they're the smart one, and it's everybody else's fault. The third one is that everything happens for a reason. And that's basically like a young adult or someone who's moved out on their own, and they realize more of that life is about the ebbs and flows and the highs and lows, and things are going to happen, and that they start to take a step back and take a little bit of an accountability, a personal inventory of why these things would happen. And they have a belief that these things happen for a reason, that you're either to look at yourself or you're to look at your situation, or that there's a better plan down the line in which the things are going to work out for you. The last stage of the mistake mindset is that what if there are no such thing as a mistake? Bad things happen in our lives, according to the law of attraction, as because an indicator to show you what you don't want. So if you have a mindset and a belief profile of how you think and how you address the world, your outside world is just a manifestation of your inside world. So if you're having things that are happening and all this stuff is that you've met, say for instance, you've met this person and all the thing you go is, well, that was a mistake. Was it though? Because that person was there to show you some very valuable things about yourself. They were to show you your belief profile, and most of all, they were to show you what you don't want. So if you have a lot of things that are going on in your life where you really don't like, and you want to change, they're actually a great indicator of what is going on inside your head, and that you are focusing on what you don't want. And this person is an answer to what you don't want. So say, for instance, here was an example. When I lost my job last May, I thought that I'd made a huge mistake, that somehow, first of all, I took the first motive that it was my fault and that I couldn't do anything to help it. That was hard. Second of all, I thought, well, it's got to be a lesson because, I haven't been behaving very well in regards to some of the people at my work. So it was a cause and effect that this is what happened. Then I thought, well, I did have the cliche in my life that everything happens for a reason. So I took a step back and thought, well, this is going to play out to my advantage. All these things do. And I just have to wait and see what is to develop. And then I decided that I was going to look at it from the idea that it wasn't a mistake and it was something that I created. I had some beliefs about myself, some insecurities about myself that I never really looked at, and that I created a situation and a personality to combat those insecurities. So I wasn't really being myself. I wasn't being vulnerable, which most people aren't, and I wasn't being open about how I felt. Instead, I put a tough girl, confident, I could take on the world attitude. Well, the people in my workplace where I was let go were responding to that personality. And I just looked at some of the players that were in that whole mess, and I realized that I had created that scenario. The person that had let me go was acting in the way that I was acting, all tough and hiding her insecurities, and trying to put on this persona that she had her stuff together. Well, I know I didn't, so I can naturally assume that she didn't. And then when it happened that I lost my job, it was a golden opportunity to look at what I didn't want. I didn't want to be unemployed. Well, I didn't want a job anymore. I realized that what I wanted to do was become someone who I could make money just being myself. I also got to look at my belief profile and how much of a failure I thought I was, and how I had a terrible relationship with money. And so because I had a terrible relationship with money, I was also showing that in losing my job and having to struggle on less income, etc. So really, my job, which I thought was the most devastating thing at the time, really turned out to just be a play and a movie that I created by the players that I had in my own mind. When I addressed those characters, I realized that was not a mistake. And it was one of the best things that ever could have happened to me. Because look, the Common Guru was born out of those experiences. So I've challenged myself now to believe that there are no such thing as mistakes. They are just incidences in which we discover more about ourselves a little bit. We discover a deeper version of ourselves. And we understand and we can look at how we contribute to our reality. But if you want to take the first attitude towards a mistake, that you have nothing to do with it, then you're going to be surrounded by these awful things, these awful incidences that happen. And maybe you'll mature a little bit more in your understanding of how things work, and you'll see it as a lesson. But you're still the victim of somebody else outside of yourself creating your reality. So I encourage you to challenge yourself and take a different look at what a mistake actually is. And in my life, I want to take a look at that there's no such thing as a mistake. Just like Thomas Edison said, you find out 1,000 ways in which things don't work. And that's just what these things happen. It's a way to look at, well, this is not the way I want things to work. And it helps me to focus on the things that I do want to work. Thanks everyone for watching. Check out our description box below where you can find new and exciting ways to connect with the Common Guru. Don't forget to subscribe to our page. Thanks everyone. Have a great day. Bye.